All right, well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this second edition of our ASD Virtual Q&A webinar. I'm Alan Brown. I'm the Director of Communications and Community Outreach here at the Anchorage School District. And I've got a panel of experts here to do their best to answer your questions about everything ASD Virtual. We've got a lot of options this fall, and we've had a lot of questions regarding our newest option, ASD Virtual. And they're here to do their best to answer those individual questions for you in the next 45 minutes. We're going to do our best to answer just as many as we possibly can and give you that opportunity. So those that are participating, you see the Q&A box down at the bottom. That allows you to go in and type a specific question. And we've got folks working behind the scenes to pull those up and put them in a queue so that we can ask them so everybody can hear the question, and it'll also be captured on closed captioning as well. And then one of our panelists will do their best to answer it. So before we start, I'd like to introduce our panel. So we have Carol Boatman as our Director of Learning Innovations, and she is managing and directing the operation of this new program, ASD Virtual. We have Dr. Jenny Knutson. She's the Senior Director of Teaching and Learning. And there's a lot of overlap sometimes when we're talking about online learning. So she's here to address questions or address points that are more specific to ASD in school, the blended model while we're doing online learning within school. We have Kathy Moffett. She's the Director of Special Projects, and she's been instrumental in helping get ASD Virtual off the ground and make it a reality here at ASD. And then finally, we have Julia Melson. She's a project manager of the development and rollout of ASD Virtual and really keeping all of us on task as we've been planning this for the last several months. So without further ado, I want to have Carol Boatman come on. She's going to present an overview of ASD Virtual, and then we'll open it up to your questions. Go ahead, Carol.
Excellent. Good evening. It's exciting to be here and be able to talk about the ASD Virtual program. So I am just going to give a quick overview because I know we've got some great questions and I want to have enough opportunity and time to answer them. So I just want to let parents know that a big piece of the virtual program is to engage students in an interactive approach to learning using an online platform. So if you're K through 5, you will use Calvert Learning. If you are 6 through 12, you will use a combination of eDynamics for your electives and Apex for your core classes. And there'll be different ways to engage that learning, whether it is through virtual labs, project-based learning, and there's also ways to support students if they are struggling or have an IEP, or maybe they're working at a different grade level. We have that ability to flex the content. We also are able to ensure a consistent and reliable learning platform for students and families. There's an established structure. It gives you a suggested schedule about how to move forward with the content, and there is a course sequence and syllabus. We also have lots of available resources to support parents as the learning coaches for their students. If you are a K through 5 parent, we will be offering a parent orientation on the 17th of August for Calvert Learning. It'll show you your role and what it looks like and how to access that content. More information is coming through the email once we get everybody registered and online. We also have an ASD certified state teacher that will help and be a part of your child's education. And they will be there to build relationships with students and families, encourage students in their learning, meaning moving them along in a positive pace, reaching out to them and seeing how they can best help and support them, and provide explicit feedback to the students. We will, as teachers, will be providing face-to-face Zoom sessions. You're not required to attend. They will be recorded, but they will be offered. There will be self-paced assignments and quizzes. There'll be online discussions through both text and video, and there's lots of support with online materials. The key thing to remember about the ASD Virtual program is that you get to stay connected to your neighborhood or choice school. So you will receive school communications from that school. You'll have an opportunity to participate in activities like clubs and athletics when it is safe to return. And then you'll have access to academic planning, graduation support, and counselors if you're 6 through 12. Actually, 9 through 12 have counselors, excuse me. And you get to be collaborative support with students, meaning if you are a parent that has a student with an IEP, you will be working with that staff along with the virtual teacher to establish content and support for your child.
All right, thank you, Carol. Did you have slides that you were going to present, or did you not use those today?
I didn't use them. It didn't work out, and I didn't want it to mess it up, so I just went.
All right.
I punted.
Got it. Okay, well, we'll dive into questions then. And I'll briefly, sometimes I might just summarize the question if need be, but I'll try to represent the question the best I can. The first one is from Eric. And Eric is asking, will ASD Virtual be using the same quarter system as ASD in school for high schoolers?
That is correct. They will be using the same system. So you'll have 2 cores and 1 elective. And the 2 core classes will be through Apex, and the elective will be through eDynamics.
Okay. Linda is asking, when will we know the virtual class schedules for 9th graders?
We are working on those right now. So as soon as we can get those available, we will get access to you so that you're able to do that.
Claire has a question that, so with some students who aren't at their grade level, academic-wise in a certain subject, will there be an option to do work at their own pace and academic level and go on from there while doing the virtual program from home?
Absolutely. That's the great thing about the ASD virtual program is you have the ability to be flexible with the content and lessons. So if your child is learning at a different grade level or the pacing needs to change, we have that ability to be able to do that. And the ASD virtual teacher is available to help with that process and put a plan in place.
All right, thank you. So Peggy is asking, what is the minimum requirement for Zoom lessons for elementary teachers?
That's a great lesson or a great question. So the key, a big thing about the ASD virtual program is it is a homeschool setting. So you are working with, as a parent, you are working with the ASD virtual teacher to set up how you want lessons to be delivered, what works for your schedule, what lessons you want to have covered, when that is going to happen. It's not going to be, they might have set lessons, like maybe they're going to say, hey, for kindergarten, we're going to do an English language lesson and it's going to be at this time. You're not required to attend, but it'll be recorded, and then you have the ability to access it when it's available for your schedule. Or maybe you and your child need some individual help, and the part of the ASD virtual teacher's role is to be available for that, to help you move through that process and have accessibility. Their key role is to be there to support for you when it works best for you.
All right. So the next question is from Emily. She's asking, how and why did you choose Calvert Learning?
That's a great question also. So the team went through a big process about looking for lots of different things. One, is the content aligned with standards? It is. 2, is the delivery method available where students have support and parents have support if they are struggling with content or they need access to tech questions? Another key component is there support, meaning can you enhance the instruction if you need to, if your student needs to move at a quicker pace or need a higher level of content, or can you provide support, meaning the student might need additional instruction, maybe we have to change the pacing. And so all of those things were put together. And also price. I mean, you always kind of look like, you want to get good things and look at those pieces. But the key things were about the content, the delivery. Was it user friendly? Were you able to go through and access all of the materials? Was it aligned with content? And did you have the ability to support students, whether to enhance the instruction or to support them because they needed an additional instruction?
All right. So Rashana is asking, when can kids pick up their electives for 7th grade?
So that should be happening. Schools should be reaching out to you and asking what you would like for electives. So if it hasn't happened yet, I would recommend that you contact your school and walk through that process.
And Jeanette is asking, what is the assessment process and how will these kids be placed in the appropriate level for coursework? My child is in 2nd grade.
So the great thing about Calvert Learning is they do have set content. So if your child is in 1st grade, they have set content for 1st grade, for English language, for math, for social studies, for science, and for the elective. What we will be doing is using advanced paths or Calvert Learning's assessment a component, which is called exact path. Sorry, there's so many words, my tongue gets tied up a little bit. And exact path will do a pre-assessment, and that pre-assessment will help determine that we are in the right grade level. And if that instruction needs to be adjusted, you and the students can work together. You and the teacher and the student will work together to establish how to move through that content. And then Exact Path is also a support program where you can get additional instruction. You can fill in the holes if a student is missing pieces of the instruction. The Exact Path is a way to be able to support that. It also is a way, if your child is on grade level, but they have some areas that they really like and enjoy and they want to increase their learning, Exact Path has a way to advance that also.
All right, the next question is from Ninia. What is ASD's plan for immersion students and what's the plan for language classes? And I wonder, I think this may also be an opportunity for Dr. Knudsen to offer her perspective as well.
Sure, I can start, Carol, if you'd like. We're really excited and value immersion, and I can speak as an immersion parent as well. My kids are in the immersion programs. That our students who are in ASD Virtual will also have the opportunity to participate in the immersion side at their school in their target language. So at secondary and middle school, it's 2 courses. High school, it's 1 course. So they will be able to participate that. We're all virtual now, so they'll be engaging in the virtual side, as well as at elementary. They can also participate in the target language subjects, and you would work with the schools, and they would give you the schedule on where that is at. So we're excited to be able to do that and offer that up to our families because we know that is real important to folks. Carol, are there other options through virtual with second languages that people could also look at?
Absolutely. There are classes that are available, different languages. So if that's something that you want to take additionally, then you would contact your school or you would contact your counselor, depending on what grade level you were. And we would look at being able to access that content and have it delivered.
Okay, so moving on to the next question. And this is one that was asked yesterday, but I think it certainly bears repeating. Is how do IEP services work with ASD Virtual?
Yeah, so that's where the support system comes in. So the support team that you have at your school, that your student is your neighborhood school or choice school, they will be working with the virtual teacher and yourself to establish what those IEP services would look like and the minutes that are available, and what the accommodations and modifications would look like. So there will be this communication with the support team from your neighborhood school, the virtual teacher, and yourself, and you guys will establish what that will look like moving forward and how that content will be delivered, and if there's accommodations or anything.
Okay, Leslie has the next question. What is a typical week for What does a typical week for ASD in school look like for elementary? Okay, I got it. Sorry. So for ASD in school blended, what is that typical week going to look like? I think that's probably a question for Dr. Knudsen.
Thank you, Alan. I'll talk a little bit about this, and then maybe Carol can juxtapose that with what virtual would look like. But in a typical week, students are going to be doing a combination of both live Zoom sessions with their teachers, as well as some asynchronous or recorded lessons or activities within their Canvas shells. So specifically, teachers are going to be doing group instruction around English language arts and math, and that will be consistent. At the elementary level, we'll probably break it up into smaller groups, because as kids are younger, we want to ensure we have engagement with them. And so teachers will probably be scheduling multiple sessions with their class so that they can have smaller groups. And then they'll also be scheduling Zoom sessions to address other areas like science and social studies and specials. And those might not be every day like we're talking about with ELA and math, but they'll be sprinkling those in throughout the week. So each school will put out a schedule from their classroom so that parents know what that schedule is. And then there's also another component that we're integrating, which one of the questions is why don't we see MathWiz and Lexia on our Clever portal? And that's because at the end of summer school, those programs ended, and we're going to be integrating a program called iReady. And that provides online ability for kids to practice their reading and their math, and really at their level, and be able to progress at their level. And it also allows your teachers to be able to monitor how students are doing, so that if needed, they can do some follow-up small group sessions, or have some other folks do some tutoring sessions with kids that might be struggling. Allows you as a parent too to monitor that, so you can see what's going on. So it is going to be a mixture of both some live sessions as well as activities that kids will do both on the computer and some paper pencil, especially for our young kids, K1, 2. We're going to have some more paper, tangible things that they'll be able to do as well. And at the secondary level, because I kind of answered for elementary, same thing. I mean, they're going to be following that period bell schedule, 3 classes. So at each 90 minutes at the beginning of that, the teacher will be scheduling Zoom sessions and providing instruction. And then beyond that that lesson that they do, they'll be available to answer questions for kids, and kids who have it, they can go on and do their work independently. Others who need more support can stay on. So they'll follow that bell schedule like they would in school. So that kind of gives you an idea of what the instruction will look like for ASD in school. The teacher is really driving that and setting the expectations for when assignments are due and leading the instruction.
And I think that really segues to a perfect opportunity for Carol to kind of answer the same thing about is there a typical day or a week for ASD Virtual? Because I know folks are trying to compare the two. So, Carol, do you want to take a stab at that?
Yes, absolutely. So the thing with the ASD Virtual program is you are going to set the schedule as a parent. So it's going to work around what works for your schedule. Calvert Learning does provide a suggested schedule. For instance, how many minutes to spend on a lesson, how much time throughout the day to cover all of the content. And it'll also give you different tips like how to motivate your kid, how to establish a schedule and a routine, how to give yourself grace, because sometimes it's just not going to work out. Sometimes it's just going to be a rough day. And the ASD Virtual teacher is there and available to help support that delivery of content. If you are a student that is K through 2, the teachers will be providing live lessons for English language and math. You're not required to participate or attend. They will be recorded, but they will be there to help with that delivery of content. We know that getting students that ready to read is really important. And so they will be required to give those lessons. But they'll also be available for you to give individual lessons or also do small group instruction, whether you request it or the teacher will request it based off of looking through the progress of how the child is moving through the content. And it may even just be based off of assessment also.
All right. Thank you, Carol.
Oh, you know what? Let me talk about 6 through 12 for just a little. It's a little bit different, okay?
Okay.
So 6 through 12 is you have 2 courses that are contents driven and 1 that is elective. And through Apex and eDynamics, they do give you a pacing guide. And they do establish that you need to be at certain times throughout the quarter. And the teacher is there to help with that pacing and content and deliver instruction and support and available when needed to move the student in a positive direction. I think it's really key to keep in mind that whether you're ASD in school or ASD virtual, and you are doing 6 through 12, if you're a 6th through 12th grader, you're doing a semester course in a quarter so that we can get the content delivered and be able to get access to all of the courses that you need to have. Typically, you take 6 courses, but now we're just doing 3 courses first quarter and then 3 courses the second quarter.
Okay. So the next question is from Ming. Do we need to register differently for ASD with virtual?
When you get into your parent online, there is an option that says that you would like to roll into the ASD virtual program. And when you do that, that flags at your school, and then they will contact you and go through the process about what courses you would like. And then you will receive communication from either the teacher, depending on what grade level your student is, or you will receive it from ASD virtual program about how to access your students' content and how you will access your content, and if there's any training coming up.
Okay. So the next question is from Allison. Are all of the courses in eDynamic Learning available to students as possible electives? And then the follow-on to that is will they only count as elective credits, or do some of them count as core credits like science, social studies, or English?
That's a great question. So depending on what grade level you're in, will determine whether all of the courses are available for eDynamics. If you are a 6th grader, there are 10 electives that are available for you to choose from. If you are 7th through 12th graders, the electives look different. 9 through 12, in a high school level, all of those electives are available. The little caveat is if there's only one student interested in that course, then we will have to find an ASD virtual teacher that is able to teach that. So there's a really small possibility that it might not be offered, but we're going to work as hard as we can to try and solve that and be solution oriented to make sure that those are available. The eDynamic courses are electives. All Apex courses are content driven, and that's where you're able to get your science and social studies and your English credits.
Okay. So Bonnie has a series of questions here. There's 3 of them, it looks like. First one deals with devices. What kind of device will work? A PC or an Apple? Should it be a tablet, laptop, or desktop? And then will any music, PE, or health be included in Calvert? Those are the first 2, and then I'll touch on the last one here.
Okay, so any computer will work, whether it's a PC or an Apple, if you're using Calvert Learning, and even if you're using Apex or eDynamics, they are compatible with any of those computers. And then the electives for PE, health, and art are included in Calvert. Calvert has established which ones for each grade level, and I don't know what they are off at the top of my head, but they are available and they will be choices for electives.
And then the last one with Bonnie, are the core classes all graded through Calvert? Or are they graded online via Calvert is the question.
They are graded online via Calvert. The teacher and parent both have access to the grading content. And then the teacher is available for posting those grades on the report card at quarter time.
So Sarah has a question that brings daycares into the mix. I know that that's been a topic of discussion and some collaboration. So what are the 4 daycare centers being trained in supporting the ASD virtual program, and how are these centers chosen? And I think that question may segue into another possible opportunity to put out there, but I'll let you address that question about daycares.
Okay, so the daycares actually reached out to us and wanted to know if we were open to the idea of them helping with the delivery of the content. Their parents were looking for ways to have access to ASD Virtual program and the instruction, but also need daycare because they're working. So Bright Beginnings and Faith Community have reached out to us, and we have been working with them to establish what their roles will look like and provide training.
Okay, I think that's a great segue into another point that we've been kind of discussing here at ASD, and an opportunity potentially for parents to get creative about the delivery and how they're going to manage logistically some of this online learning. And that's the question, or that's the idea of sort of creating parent cohorts or groups to sort of distribute the teaching load or work through those logistics. Carol, can you offer some insight and some things that you've encountered with that? Because I've seen a few things on social media that folks might be interested in too, but I'll let you kind of address that first.
Yeah, so actually that has come up in the last couple of days. We have had principals or parents reach out to us about the idea of having these parent cohorts where parents are sharing the load with the daycare and the instruction. And one of the things that they've asked for is, can they have the same ASD virtual teacher at grade level in the elementary setting? And we are saying, yes, we have that ability to be able to do that. And the way to get the cohort information to us, meaning we need to know student name, parent names, and what the grade level is to send that information to your school, and then they will forward that information to me. And as we start establishing grade levels and assigning them to a teacher, we will put those parent-student cohorts together with the same teacher at the grade level.
Okay, so what are some of the possible benefits? What are parents going to potentially get out of this that we anticipate?
So a big thing is having other parents to work with each other. So you each have this ability to be able to support all of your students. It's a support group. That's a piece of it. Another piece of it is for the families to be able to support each other with the delivery of instruction, how to access the lessons, and have parents available to deliver the instruction and move through the assignments. But also, if other parents are going to work, there's that daycare setting that's available also, and they provide that part of it also. A key thing to keep in mind with the ASD virtual program, and if you are doing those parent cohorts, you'll receive the parent support just like if you were doing it individually. We would still provide the trainings, the teachers would be available for lessons. I think a key thing with that is when you're doing that cohort, you and the other students that you're working with, you guys could do a mini lesson together if you wanted to with that ASD virtual teacher. If you felt that there was a need, or if the teacher felt there was a need, you have that ability to do that.
Okay, thank you. That actually goes along. We've been seeing a lot of creative solutions from parents on social media. A lot of parents have been created Facebook groups within school communities looking for parents to join in. So just kind of put that out there, that there's a lot of great ideas out there. There's a lot of parents looking for ways to be innovative with this option. And as Carol has suggested, I mean, that's certainly available to do. There's lots of ways to figure out how to make this work. So we'll move on to a few more questions. We've got 15 minutes left. So I think we'll probably get through these questions. So maybe we could add a couple more just so we're good. But Rashana is asking, will all learning be strictly virtual?
Well, for the ASD virtual program, it is virtual. There is paper and pencil for some of the materials, for instance, vocabulary or phonics cards. And we are looking at getting the math workbook pages. but the delivery of the instruction is all virtual if you are in the ASD Virtual program.
Now, I think that Dr. Knudsen, are there any exceptions for ASD in school, at least for the time being in the high risk model, or is that also the same?
I was on mute. Could you repeat that again, Alan?
Are there any for ASD in school? The question is all learning going to be virtual? And I think it merits maybe looking at in school as well. Are there any exceptions where learning might be in person, or everything for sure is all going to be online?
Yeah, at this point in time in high risk, everything is online. Again, it's a combination of live instruction as well as activities within their Canvas courses that are linked to current ASD curriculum. When we move into a medium risk or medium high, it will be a blended approach. So there will be in-person instruction from teachers as well as a combination of that with some online. And then of course, when we eventually move to low, we will be all in person. But we won't get rid of some of the blending things because there's some really great opportunities for us to incorporate that into our instruction for the future, but we'll be in a physical setting at that point in time.
Great, thank you, Dr. Knudsen. So we'll move back to the questions specifically about ASD Virtual. Teresa is asking, what is the student-teacher ratio or student-certified teacher ratio for ASD Virtual?
So if you are K through 5, the ratio is 30:1. And if you are 6 through 12, the ratio is 40:1.
All right. Emily has the next question. Where exactly on the ASD website can we find a sample Calvert lesson?
So I was actually trying to find that, and it's on our ASD Virtual webpage. So if you go to you can actually go to the school start plan, click on ASD at home, and then that will take you through the ASD Virtual, and then go over to the elementary section, and you will see that there are some sample lessons there.
Okay. The next question is from Teresa. She says the high school students signed up for classes months ago for the fall. How are those classes translated, or I guess maybe are those class signups being carried over? For example, if they were scheduled for Algebra 1, will they be scheduled for Algebra 1 in the virtual class? Okay.
Yes. So if they signed up for classes in the spring, then those classes will be used in Apex and for eDynamics. Say they picked an elective that maybe eDynamics does not suggest. Sorry, you know this is what happens when you're live. Then the counselors will reach out to you and ask, hey, these are the electives that are available. Which ones are close to what you selected from the spring?
Okay. Next question is from Jeanette. Will iReady be used with ASD Virtual as well?
So if it's needed, then iReady could be, it's an option and it's available for ASD Virtual. However, we will be using ExactPath to provide assessments and supports. But if we feel that it's a need, then it's certainly, I do know that it's available and it's an option. Jenny, Dr. Knudsen, did you want to add anything?
Just to add to that, one of the things that is my understanding with Calvert is there are built-in assessments with it that are kind of similar to what we'll be doing with iReady on the ASD in-school side. So I think there'll be a way for students to assess their progress in reading and math, very similar to what iReady does. That's one of the reasons why, as a district, we went with iReady on the ASD in-school side so that we could have something comparable, because we really want to ensure all of our kids have really strong reading and math skills. And so really it might be redundant if they're doing both, but that's why we have the two separate ones. But I think Calvert has a really good assessment system built within that as well.
That is correct. The Calvert Learning does have that. I was just thinking if a parent was familiar with it and wanted access to it, I mean, we could certainly be flexible with that. But the exact path is tied into the lessons and allows that flexibility and the ongoing assessment with it.
Okay, the next question is a really good one, and we've had this one in a variety of different ways. And I think it's kind of one of those questions that bears repeating. So what separates ASD Virtual from homeschool? And I think I'm kind of going to assume that the homeschool reference is maybe a homeschool program other than ASD, because we do have different homeschool options in ASD. But what separates ASD Virtual from homeschool? Basic differences, and why should I go with ASD?
That's another great question. So one of the reasons that the ASD Virtual program has come about was from feedback from parents from the spring. They wanted to have their hands on a little bit more with the delivery of instruction. They wanted a homeschool setting, but they still wanted to have a connection with their neighborhood school. And that's a big difference between a homeschool setting and the ASD Virtual setting, is that we are still providing that access to your neighborhood or choice school. So if you are in an immersion program, however, you want to do content virtually, whether that's how your student learns best, or maybe you just don't feel it's safe to go back to school, even if the risk level changes, you still have that ability to be a part of that program. And that's a key component. That's the difference between just regular a homeschool and then the ASD Virtual program. Another key thing to keep in mind is a lot of homeschool programs, when you access those programs, the teacher ratio sometimes is 120 to 1. We're looking at a teacher ratio to students as 30 to 1 for K through 5 and 40 to 1 through 6 through 12. That means that teacher is more readily available to help with support and move content and progress through. So you have that partnership and collaboration to deliver that instruction and make sure that your student is successful.
Okay, so Laura has a question about Ignite and whether Ignite will be available for the virtual option. If we choose in-person option, what are the procedures put in place for students returning? So let's maybe address that first one. Is Ignite available for the virtual option?
Okay, so I don't know what Ignite is, so maybe Kathy Moffitt or Dr. Knutson can help with that.
Yeah, I can speak to that. Ignite will be an option for students who are in ASD Virtual or in ASD Homeschool. So if students are eligible for Ignite, our Ignite teachers are putting together a virtual online experience for students, and we'll be checking in. So they will have that same opportunity regardless if they're in the in-school or the virtual program.
Okay.
Thank you.
So Beth is asking, when will virtual schedules be released?
We are working on them right now. Counselors are scheduling personnel. We're trying to get all of that uploaded and ready and available as soon as possible. That really is our goal. We're working strong and fast and trying to get it done as quickly as possible.
And following up on that, what is the deadline for making for parents to make a decision? And I assume that's deciding whether to go with virtual, whether to go with in-school. How much time do parents have?
Well, we recommend that you do it the day before, before school starts, so that you know who your teacher is. And if you're choosing ASD Virtual program, you'll have the ability to access the content, attend the parent trainings. And if you are ASD in school and you choosing before school starts, allows you to know who your teacher is going to be and know moving forward what that's going to look like. However, you really can make the decision when you want to. It's up to you. We're going to support that decision. And if you choose to do it later than after school starts, then we're going to help and move forward and support that.
Okay, so moving on, we've got just a time for a couple of more questions here. Stephanie has one. Stephanie's asking about how we define self-paced. What does that mean? And so here, I'll just read the question. Please define self-paced. Are we not going to be able to place deadlines for assignments on Canvas? And how will we ensure that all students complete the assignments and are at the same place before moving on?
Those are great questions. So self-paced really means that you guys get to establish when you want to deliver the content. You get to set the schedule for instruction, when you want to do it, how long you want to spend on it. That's what the self-paced component uses. If you're in the ASD Virtual program, you will not be using Canvas. You'll either be using the Calvert Learning content and platform, or you will be using Apex and eDynamics to look at the completion of assignments to move forward with the pacing. And parents will receive weekly communication about their students' progress and where they are struggling and if they are on pace or not. And so you have the ability to set those times and those guidelines and really the where you would like your students to be. And the ASD virtual teacher is there to help and guide and support that.
Okay, so Anthony's asking, what curriculum will the kindergarten program use for the homeschool option with the district? I'll assume that's the ASD virtual option. Yeah.
So if you are choosing the ASD virtual program, we will be using Calvert Learning. The Calvert Learning will deliver instruction K through 5.
And Torenzo or Tandy Torenzo, will parents be introduced to a new format in regard to report cards and grades?
No, the report cards and grades will remain the same. We're not changing that format. What will change is just looking at the progress of your student. So if your student is an elementary student, that progress will be delivered through Calvert Learning and how the child is moving forward, how they are grading on assessments and that piece. And if they're 6th through 12th, it'll be through eDynamics and Apex. But the actual report card will not change.
Okay. Beth is asking when students will get to preview the virtual models, given that we're so close to the start of school.
Yeah, the schedules have to be built in order to have access to the virtual models. And so if you are, no matter which one you are, whether it's K through 5 or 6 through 12, when the virtual teacher reaches out and makes contact with you will be a way that you will have access to it. And if we can get it out before the first day of school, we will deliver those messages so that you have the ability to start. We want you to be able to access it as soon as you can. That's the great thing about the ASD virtual program is it's self-paced. And so if you want to start really before school starts, you get in there and you understand it and stuff, you have that ability to be able to do that. So as soon as schedules are in and we are connected with the platforms, we will get that information out.
All right, so we've got time for 2 more, and I've got them selected, Eric and Megan. But Eric is asking, if our student struggles with doing school at home and doesn't complete the assignments for a quarter in time, are there any provisions for turning in work after the quarter ends?
Sorry. I was thinking it was ASD at school, and so I was waiting for Dr. Knutson, and I realized it was towards me. It's getting towards the end of the evening. So look, we're going to work with you. So if your child is having a hard time with completing assignments, we're going to try and make adjustments and figure out what's the best way to get through that stuff. So don't stress that piece. We're here to help and support. And if we need some flexibility, we'll figure out a way to do some flexibility.
And then last, Megan is asking, for elementary grades, how and when do we pick up the materials? On their website, there is an option to have to have in-hand or printed materials versus online?
Yes, so what that means with Calvert Learning is they provide some of the printed materials. It doesn't mean that the learning is all printed. It means that they have resources that supplement or that you can use with the actual online content. So we have access to the most needed consumables, the ones that are going to be the most effective. And we will get those printed out and delivered. And we're in the process of figuring out how to deliver them. You maybe pick them up at the school or we may mail them out, but they are coming for grades K through 5.
All right, thank you, Carol. So that really does it for our 45-minute allotted time. And we really got through quite a few questions today. And we apologize if we didn't get to everybody's, but that was actually really, there's a lot of questions that we got through. I know this was a lot of information and I know it was coming really fast. So this webinar is being recorded. It's going to be posted on our website on the front page as a news item, either later tonight or probably likely tomorrow morning after we get all of our captions and stuff done. That'll be there, so you can go back and look through it and catch some of the information that you may have missed. It'll also it'll live up there for a long time. So we'll also be taking a variety of these questions and building up our FAQs and so forth. So we're doing our best to try to capture all those questions. There's so many good questions there. And so hopefully this has been productive for everybody and helpful. We know this is a challenging time and there's a lot of information to soak in a relatively quick time. But thank you so much for everybody for watching and tuning in. Thank you to our panelists for your time and your expertise. Really, really thankful for everybody's work on this, and we're getting excited for the start of the school year. So I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you so much, and good luck here as we come to the beginning of the school year.